There is this very weird, very online, very smug pro-baby movement happening right now.
It is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
Being a mother is the most important job in the world. I could have the greatest careers working for Elon, working in the White House. I had 3 kids in 4 years. But being a mother has made my career richer, fuller, better. It's made life richer, fuller, better. Having a husband makes your life better. It does. And if more women were told and more young girls were told that a husband and children make your life so much better, they would do it younger.
Young women, I talk to young conservative women all the time about their lives and their goals and, you know, the things that they want. And what's happening is they can't find a lot of young men who want to marry a working woman now.
Please, don't put it off. Especially if you're a young woman, don't put it off. You can always have a career. You can always, go back to work. You can never just go back to having children.
Where a bunch of people have suddenly decided that the biggest problem in society right now is that women are not having enough kids. Not housing, definitely not wages or healthcare, or not the fact that everyone is exhausted and broke. Like, come on, gals, have you tried just having more money? No, the issue is apparently that women are too focused on their jobs and not focused enough on being barefoot vessels for the future. And real quick, I'm Lauren Paritra. Please take a moment and make sure you're subscribed. Hit that notifications bell, turn notifications on, hype this video if you're on mobile, share it with a friend if not, because we cannot have these pro-baby bitches like Katie Miller, the wife of Stephen Little Bitch Miller, telling young people that their primary purpose in life is to be a birthing vessel and to submit to pasty white nationalists like Stephen Little Bitch Miller, who once admitted to living off of mayonnaise exclusively. Look it up. I'm not making it up. And the wild part is when we look at who's pushing all of this, it's not single, stressed out moms or people drowning in childcare costs. It's Megyn Kelly. It's Candace Owens. It's Erika Kirk. It's Katie Miller. My nightmare blunt rotation, plus the usual orbit of right-wing trad wife influencers. All of a sudden, all of them are suddenly very invested in telling women to stop working, to embrace motherhood as their primary identity, and to be more submissive and trust that everything will just perfectly magically work out, which is such a funny message coming from women who are extremely wealthy, professionally insulated, and absolutely not planning on giving up their own primary income, platforms, or autonomy. All of them just happen to have book deals, speaking tours, podcast sponsorships, wealthy husbands, or dead husbands in some cases, full-time nannies, household help, media careers requiring constant travel, social media managers, and 6-figure Substacks. Megyn Kelly telling women to embrace traditional roles from the comfort of her multi-million-dollar media career it's performance art. She's doing podcasts from her home studio about how modern women are too focused on their careers and material success, wearing $400 worth of modest linen. No. She's explaining that feminism ruined everything by making women think that they need financial independence. Just, you need to trust God and make some sacrifices and birth the babies and everything's going to work out. She says this right before her assistant reminds her about tomorrow's flight or a conservative conference where she's going to pray to Charlie Kirk as the keynote speaker on why women should stay home. Candace Owens also rallying against feminism after making a fortune being a professional opinion haver.
Up 10% of women are the only women whose marriage rates are going up. So they're getting married, they're staying married, and their kids are doing better. When you look at stay-at-home mothers, you see that they're more likely to report being depressed, they're more likely to report having anxiety and anger and all these types of things. So how can you say that? Seems like a woman, if you want to get married and have kids, you should go to college and have a career.
So it sounds to me like we are looking at totally different statistics, because everything that you said, I've actually read the exact opposite.
I'm glad we're on a fact check show with you.
Right, exactly.
Oh, it's so exciting.
That's going to be amazing. Okay. Because I know, like I said, I think what we're talking about is that there was this widespread report on female happiness, and I know that it was formally debunked, and it was
That's not what I'm talking about. Pew Research,
right.
University of California. In fact, working mothers today spend more time with their children than women did in the 1960s that were at home.
Okay, well, women that are at home are obviously spending more time with their children than the people who are at work.
And their
today.
children are not faring off any better,
Okay.
and they're faring off worse.
How are you measuring their children faring off worse?
How likely they are to higher incomes, better scores, fewer health problems, fewer behavioral issues, and better mental health.
So the just to get back to the claim that I'm making here is that it is obvious that women who have children are going to be more fulfilled.
How is
right?
that obvious? Because you said so?
No, it's not obvious because I said so. It's because when you look at all the statistics in terms of women who are choosing not to have families, they are, as the person who just sat here before you mentioned, they are suffering from more depression. They're suffering from more anxiety. And yes, that
when you look at
you
people
can't just
who
say
voluntarily don't have children, no, I'm not saying that, but that's not true.
Okay, it is true. It is actually true that women who are choosing their careers over starting families are finding themselves leaning more onto medicines like Xanax, anxiety-inducing medicines, and depression because they suspended that time frame where women really should be looking to find a partner and to start a family because they were instead pursuing their careers.
Then why are they better off?
It is a dishonest, it is totally a dishonest narrative that men and women want the same things out of life. We don't. We absolutely do not want the same things out of life. In fact, we don't even measure success the same.
And just capitalism. She loves capitalism. Erika Kirk is the #1 pro-natalist.
And when it comes to career, I will be fully transparent. I was fully bought into the boss babe. I mean, I lived in Manhattan. Charlie essentially plucked me out of the New York City orbit and was like, no, I have a healthier way of viewing things and looking at life and things like that. And he was right. He was right. And I remember thinking, if I would have stayed on that path I was on, I would have lost out on some of the most beautiful moments of my life. Children, having a husband, being able to create and build something so incredible.
She's making it a lifestyle, and she's rallying up this crowd and telling them to opt out of work. Work is not empowering, as if financial dependence in America isn't one of the fastest routes to being completely fucked if anything goes wrong.
Feminism has packaged things for us, and it's good to pause and to actually reflect and to think about how that actually began. Because it has been this system of psychological conditioning for women, and it begins as soon as you enter the school system. You start to see these things. You start to understand that feminism as a term is all around you, and it's something that you are being force-fed, whether you recognize it or not. And make no mistake, there is absolutely nothing feminine about feminism, right? There's nothing feminine about feminism. And that is the left. They take words, and when they sell it to you, it always sounds good, but they're actually doing bad. I mean, obviously, a very big example of that is when people say, oh, I'm pro-choice, and that sounds wonderful. But actually, no, an infant is not choosing whatsoever in that environment. And it's the same thing with feminism. You want to think that that's a good word. When you learn about that the first time, and they say, well, this is about equality between the sexes. And no, it's not. It is absolutely not about equality between the sexes. Actually, what feminism is it is about disturbing healthy relations between the sexes. I actually say now that if you really understand feminism and you start to follow it and you start to get deep into the history of feminism, it is actually a precursor to transgenderism.
And then we have Katie Miller.
You have 3 under the age of 5, and you're still doing it all. You worked at the White House. You worked for Elon Musk. Now you have your podcast.
It doesn't inhibit your career. In fact, it ignites gasoline to the fire. And if more women were told and more young girls were told that a husband and children make your life so much better, they would do it younger. It isn't this career gap where you take time off, have maternity leave, and you can't come back and be a CEO. You look at Adina Friedman, the CEO of NASDAQ. She took part-time work when she was a young mother. You look at Susie Wiles, right, who was a young mother, went part-time, and then she went into becoming chief of staff in the White House.
Married to a man, Stephen Little Bitch Miller, whose whole identity is built on his passion for ethnic cleansing. The beauty of motherhood, right? The cognitive dissonance is top-notch. Now, you might be thinking, surely these people advocate for policies that would make it financially viable for average families to have more children. No, this is not how they approach things. Universal health care? Absolutely not. That sounds like socialism to me. Paid parental leave? Ew, no. Just birth them and send them back, even if they had major surgery immediately. When it comes to affordable housing, there's POV is, how about don't be poor instead? And then when it comes to higher wages, they just say that's what your husband's for. Universal health care, they'll be like, oh no, that's communism. What they all share is this fantasy that if women just stop working and start having babies, the rest will sort itself out. Healthcare bills, who? The husband will earn enough. The government will help. The community will step in. God will Venmo you. None of this is explained, funded, or backed by any evidence or data. So if it sounds soothing, maybe you've never had to Google the average cost of daycare and then stare at a wall for 10 minutes afterwards. Meanwhile, the same people either oppose or downplay literally every single policy that would make having kids easier for normal people. Look what they did to Mandani. So the message ends up being, just have babies. Don't ask for help. Don't expect any help. Just baby it up. Create the next generation, but do so on a hard focus mode. And if you struggle, that's a personal failure. Just have more money. It's not the system's fault. It's not the government's. The platform that they all have, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, stories of someone in serene morning routine, probably filmed by their assistant, while having their children play peacefully, managed by their nanny, in their sprawling home, purchased with family money or conservative think tank funding, whoever's bankrolling this pro-baby bullshit, where they have enough time to bake sourdough and contemplate the collapse of fertility rates.
When my uncle was president, the fertility rate in this country was 3.5%. Today, it is 1.6%. The replacement rate, in other words, the amount of fertility that you need in order to keep your population even, is 2.1%. We are below replacement right now. That is a national security threat to our country. And we know why this is happening. And President Trump is addressing the root causes through his MAGA agenda of reducing endocrine disruptors, the exposure to chemicals that decrease fertility. Today,
meanwhile, the average American woman is trying to figure out how to afford her $2,000 rent, how to figure out her student loan payments, her health insurance premiums, which are through the roof, and maybe possibly eventually think about having one kid if she can save enough money for 3 months of unpaid maternity leave. But of course, the real problem is she's just been brainwashed by liberal feminism into wanting a career instead of just naturally designed to fulfill her biological destiny. The funniest part is that we actually have the data on this, but we're ignoring it because it's unfavorable to the grift. Countries where people get paid leave, subsidized childcare, and healthcare, they do have higher birth rates. When raising a child doesn't mean financial ruin, more people are likely to do it. Shocking. Crazy how that works out. But instead of learning from that, American pro-baby or pro-natalism has decided that the problem is women's attitudes, that they're way too independent, they're way too ambitious, and too willing to gamble their entire futures on vibes and a man. You know what's wild? These women aren't wrong that there's something broken about modern life, making it harder to have families. They're just so fucking wrong about what's actually broken and who broke it. It's not the women getting too ambitious. It's that wages stagnated while costs have exploded. It's that healthcare got tied to employment. It's that childcare costs more than college. It's that housing became an investment vehicle instead of a place to live. It's that we built an economy that requires two incomes to achieve what one income brought in 1970. Then we told women they're too selfish for wanting to work. Just go baby it up. But addressing these things would actually require advocating for policies that their donors hate. It's much easier to blame communism, socialism, feminism, any ism, and tell women to make better life choices while you're on your way to tape a podcast about how you're doing motherhood the right way. Authentic, traditional motherhood sponsored by a VPN company. And then there's this unspoken assumption that everyone is secretly rich, or at least about to be. Like, if women just surrender their traditional roles, the money will appear. God will Venmo you, Jesus Christ himself, which is hilarious in an economy where one medical emergency can wipe you out entirely. One bad relationship can leave you stranded with no income and no safety net. Telling women to give up their economic independence in this system isn't wholesome or brave. That's totally reckless. Also, notice how the sacrifice is almost entirely one-sided. Women, you got to submit, you got to reproduce, you got to sacrifice, while men are just encouraged to exist. Traditional gender roles without the traditional obligations. Funny how that works out. Submission with no expectations of men to show up. Babies without infrastructure. Risk without protection. It's a raw deal. The real giveaway that this movement is totally bankrolled and not actually about policy is watching what happens when someone suggests actual support for families. Suddenly it's, whoa, 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 don't get all crazy. We can't be incentivizing the wrong people to have the wrong babies. And then it becomes, it's the personal responsibility of that woman. And that's not the role of the government. The role of the government is to fund wars in Israel. Duh, they have universal health care. Oh, so you want to have more babies, but you don't want to make it economically viable for people to have babies or to keep the existing babies alive. You want women to stay home, but you don't want to advocate for the wages that would make single income families possible. You want traditional family structures, but you oppose every policy that would actually make them possible. Cool. Very cool. Sounds like a real serious Megyn Kelly movement. And this isn't just a content vertical to them. The funniest part is that all these influencers are literally doing what they're telling other women not to do. They're building their own brands. They're monetizing their platform. They're hiring help so they can work. They're traveling for their careers. Let's look at freaking Erika Kirk. She's been on a whirlwind tour. They're financially independent or becoming so. They're just doing it while talking about how women shouldn't do these things. Very bad. It's brilliant, really. They found one career where you can be a working woman while making money telling other women not to be working women. And if this video has expanded your perspective, please take a moment to subscribe, turn notifications on. I'm Lauren Paritra. The only way we can combat these voices is by lifting up other voices like yours truly. We'll be back with more.